And Jeremy Thompson is with us. He's running in the 9th Congressional District. And without further ado, we say welcome to Jeremy to the program.
Thank you, Matt, for having us on. We're excited about this.
Well, it's exciting to have you here. We were talking right before the interview that I made a trek through your fine hometown of Fayetteville just a couple of weeks ago. Beautiful place.
Yes, sir. We've lived there our entire life. We love it. We're raising a family there, and we encourage people to do the same.
Tell us a little about yourself, your family, and what has led you to this point.
Yeah, born and raised in Fayetteville, Lincoln County, Tennessee. We live on a small farm there where we have a 19-year-old son who will go to UT Knoxville in the fall, and our 14-year-old daughter, Eden, will move into Lincoln County High School. And Lindsay and I both worked for government. I had a 22-year career with the National Guard, Army National Guard on Title 32 AGR active duty. And we, after I retired in 2022, went on a brief intelligence contract and now work for a military nonprofit out of D.C. shaping federal-level legislation for Veterans Affairs and National Security Advisory.
And on the side, you've got a restaurant down there.
Yeah, we've got the Revolutionary Tavern. And,
I say on the side. Yeah. I don't want to diminish what you're doing.
Yeah, the Revolutionary Tavern. We came up with the Revolutionary Tavern because there was a pre-existing restaurant tavern there, and we had this bigger vision for it. So when we took it over, we kind of themed it after the Revolutionary War. Benjamin Lincoln is what Lincoln County is named after, and he served second in command to George Washington with the Continental Army and received the surrendered sword at Yorktown when the war ended. And then Marquis de Lafayette was a 19-year-old Frenchman that came over to fight in the Revolutionary War.
Wait, so Lincoln County is named from Benjamin Lincoln. And so I know this. Is he from there?
No,
but they just named it after him.
Yeah, they named it after him. Yeah. Lincoln County was founded in 1809.
Got you.
So he was still alive at that point, but I think he died maybe in 1810, 1811.
All right, educate me if I'm wrong here, Jeremy, but I think my history is correct, that Washington designated Lincoln to accept the sword because, Cornwallis wouldn't.
That's right.
He got sick.
Yeah, he backed out.
So you got to love this about Washington. Washington's like, oh, your second in command is going to give me my sword? Yeah, my second in command will take it. Thanks very much.
That's right. And the actual sword that was surrendered is on display where you can actually visit and see it in D.C.
Wow.
At the American Military Museum.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So what, experience within, military circles, obviously, and with government circles, but what would lead you to cast your hat in the ring in the 9th Congressional District?
So we've been evaluating this for 10, 15 years now, and we saw a catastrophic event take place, in my opinion, in 2008, 2009, when the country decided that Barack Obama would be the best president for the United States. And I felt like I knew that night what the next 8 years was going to look like when he said we were going to fundamentally transform the United States of America. I, under no circumstances, felt like we needed fundamental transformation. And what that's turned into is a war on police. Nobody gets held accountable anymore. Everybody gets to do what they want to do. We sequestered our military. We traded traitors for terrorists. We gave money in the middle of the night to our enemies. We shifted cultural ideology to where we have to believe now that we don't have enemies. We absolutely have enemies, and our enemies have to be met face to face and eliminated, because there is a difference between good and evil, and that's what I've seen infiltrate politics over the last 10 or 15 years.
Were you thinking along these lines prior to the Supreme Court decision that kind of led to the redrawing of the district lines? Was this something that was on your mind and on your heart prior to this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd gotten to know several legislators at the federal level in the House and Senate, working with House Armed Services and Senate Armed Services. And Scott Desjardins is someone that I've consulted with over time and developed a relationship with. But I talked to him briefly over time about what it might look like to run for the 4th District at some point. We did not know that we were going to wake up one Thursday morning and have a completely redrawn district with no Republican incumbent. So Lindsay and I discussed it really quickly, made a few quick phone calls, and then I started calling the election office. They didn't even have the petitions yet. I had to wait till like 4 or 5 o'clock that evening to draw a petition. And we've been in fast forward and 100 miles an hour ever since then.
You and I just met one another, but I've said for a long time in my world, doing what I do on the radio, that to meet a politician is, generally speaking, to like them. I mean, it's almost part of the job description is that you've got to be able to meet people and speak to them and be personable. And so none of this is personal when I say this. One of your opponents, Brent Taylor, almost seemed, and I like Brent. I've had him on the show plenty. but it almost seemed like a coronation. Did you get that impression? I mean, because it was hours after these redrawn districts were decided upon that he announced that he was running in the 9th Congressional District, and it felt like, there was some prior knowledge as to how all of that would shake out. Maybe there was. I don't know. Give me your impression of all of that, and were you already down the road and making your decision, or did that impact you in any way?
It didn't impact me much at all. I did take very serious note of it because I think he had been endorsed by the 2 senators and half the state legislature within hours of his announcement. And then the very next morning, I think, said that he had dropped $1 million into his own campaign account. Well, your average American does not have that capability. And you generally don't have months to lead up to an emergency session where districts are redrawn to make you a valid candidate either. So, this is something that's been on our radar for a long time, but it's not for politics. I'm not a politician. I told the crowd that I was in front of this morning, I've always been a soldier and a patriot of this nation. I believe that we've run away with government. We've run away with politics. I'm not down for coattail politics anymore. It's not going to get the job done. We're going to lose our country if we don't start focusing on the things that are killing it.
So the big divide when we're talking about national political issues would be obviously domestic and foreign. And I'll create those divisions in asking this question. What is the biggest, in your opinion, domestic issue in front of the United States of America?
Yeah, so I want to address something really quickly because I've done a lot of research and study on this, and I'd encourage other people to do the same. We've never defined domestic enemy. We swear our politicians and we swear our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines to an oath, but we've never defined what a domestic enemy is to hold it accountable. The West Point did a study one time, and they wrote a white paper report on what a domestic enemy could be defined as. But we've never defined it. We've never held it accountable. We seem too weak to do that when it comes to domestic issues. But I would say that the biggest domestic threat to the United States is how we've abandoned our public education system and how we're not educating children at the most basic level how to love this country, how to know what this country was founded on, the hurdles we've achieved, the things that we've accomplished, what we've done around the world in the name of freedom. And we cannot continue to produce people graduating high school and college in this country that can't basically read, write, academically, vocationally qualified, and are taught that we're everything but a pro-life, pro-American, pro-freedom country.
Do you applaud the idea under the Trump administration, particularly in the second term, of bringing that public education back to the states? I feel like it's an appropriate place to be, away from the federal government, away from the Department of Education.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think that's where we started to fail, is when we look, we're too big. Government's gotten too big. If you want to know where the power is in the United States political spectrum is right now, it is no longer in the power of the people's hands. It's in the power of the politicians' hands. And it was never framed to be that way. We have got to immediately start having hard conversations in the United States government, in the House, the Senate, and the executive, and the judiciary across this country. It got turned upside down by Barack Obama. That was strategic on his part. It was very smart for achieving what he wanted to achieve, which I think is to expedite the socialist, Marxist, and communist ideology in this country. But we don't hold anything accountable anymore, and I think that's the fundamental problem in this country. Nobody wants to be the bad guy. Nobody wants to stand in the gap, and we tiptoe around conversations that we should be meeting head on.
I've long said, and I'm curious your thoughts on it, that the greatest existential threat that the United States of America faces, and I include foreign threat as well as domestic threat, is our inability to stop spending fake money.
Absolutely.
And I wonder, as the next representative of the 9th Congressional District, how you would bring that if you agree with that premise that the amount of overspending, I mean, we have added, it's hard to contemplate, but I've said it until I'm blue in the face, in 10 years, and most of this is under Republican control.
I got it, yeah.
We have added $19 trillion. We've doubled the national debt in 10 years. It's completely unsustainable. Nobody wants to talk about it. Do you agree with the premise, and then what would you bring to the 9th Congressional District to tackle it?
A couple of things I'd address here, and a lot of people don't even know what a CBO is, but that's the Congressional Budgeting Office. Any legislation that's passed in the United States House and Senate goes through the CBO to see if it's affordable or if we can afford it. Now, we passed a law in 1974 that said we would hold ourselves accountable in the United States Congress. It was called the Congressional Budget Act of 1974. I think 38 years between then and now, we have failed to produce a budget to the President of the United States. That's a catastrophic failure on the part of those that we are electing and sending to these offices. We can't get away with that. Me and you can't get away with that. We would be bankrupt, imprisoned, or homeless if we managed our accounts that way. So if we want our country to be bankrupt, imprisoned, or in debt to another nation, or completely fall apart from the inside out, we can just keep doing what we want to do or how we've previously done it. But if we don't, if we want to save this country and start turning things around, we start budgeting appropriately to the income that we have. I think our annual revenue is somewhere between 5.5 trillion. We're carrying a $1 trillion debt. And we have somewhere between $6 and $7 trillion a year in expenditures right now, with no accountability inside.
Look, I'm an old man now. When I was a younger fella in college, I remember the contract with America, Newt Gingrich, and the Republican Revolution of the early 1990s, mid-1990s. And I remember that the balanced budget concept was front and center, and a balanced budget amendment was front and center. We don't seem to be talking about that very much anymore, Jeremy.
No, not at all. That's where we have to start. I tell this story sometimes. I want to be respectful of it because he is now passed and gone. But I got to interact with Senator John McCain on national security issues back in the day. And I walked in one year and to advocate military and national security affairs. And he very arrogantly said, what can I do for you this year? And I said, well, how about nothing until you know how to present a reasonable budget? And it reshaped the entire conversation. It got his attention. He sat up in his chair, and we had a real conversation about what money was going to look like for the totality of government, but specifically for national security and how we were going to fund our United States military and upper intelligence apparatus moving forward.
I want to shift gears to foreign affairs just because I look at the clock, and we've only got about 10 more minutes, and I've got to take a short time out here in a second. But where are you on the engagement in Iran?
So I said early on that the President of the United States will and always has had the ability to conduct military operations as he sees fit for national security under Article 2 of the Constitution. I think that's what he has exercised here. Now, I had hoped that we would go the 60 days or the additional 30, reaching 90 for some kind of resolution here. Now, it's my understanding that that's been reset, justifiably reset. At the end of the day, Congress has the power to declare war on our nation's enemies. But Iran has not been held accountable since 1979. They've killed Americans around the world. They've been the center state sponsor of terrorism around the world. They've partnered with China and every other anti-American entity on the planet to try to make sure that we fail. So President Trump realized this. Marco Rubio realized this. Certainly Pete Hegseth realized this. And they got out in front of it. And they're holding our enemies accountable. They're identifying our enemies and holding them accountable. Now, what I think an end state has to look like is something not like what we've done in the last 20 to 25 years. We can't occupy Iran. We can't continue to regime change. Those things really shouldn't be entertained or on the table, I don't think. But I equate this to spanking our kids when they do wrong or they do something incredibly disrespectful or unsafe. Sometimes you have to get whipped a little bit to get your attention, get you back in shape.
My greatest fear, Jeremy, is that the strength that Donald Trump, our president, brings to the table, his skill in negotiating and positioning himself, and in this case, the United States of America, in the best possible way to achieve a more permanent peace, to achieve a non-nuclear Iran, to achieve a free and open Strait of Hormuz, all of those things. His ability to do those negotiations are predicated on the idea that you have honest actors sitting across the table, and I think it's regularly demonstrated that we don't, which is what I fear is going to create a long, almost quag type situation.
Quagmire, yeah.
And I don't think anybody wants that. So what role does Congress have at some point? Is it up to Congress to step in and say, Mr. President, we've got to have a say in this, otherwise you can't continue doing what you're doing?
I would generally, under normal circumstances, say yes. But Congress is so dysfunctional right now because we send people who are very unqualified for the job from the simple principle of just not even loving this country anymore. And if we keep electing people into the United States Congress, we'll keep getting the same results. What I would say is we got to go beyond Congress at this point and wake the people up. We keep talking about wokeism and are you awake and are you watching the political process? The answer is absolutely not. The answer is we elect people and we send them to take on our political affairs at the local, state, and federal level, and we only get mad or angry about something when it affects our checkbooks directly through a tax increase or a tax shift or some kind of local, state, or federal project that interrupts our backyard physically, a highway or eminent domain or a data center or whatever the case may be. That's when we get mad and we want to be accountable to government. We have to be accountable to government, or not accountable to government. Government has to be accountable to us every single day.
His name is Jeremy Thompson. He's running in the 9th Congressional District. Quick timeout, and we'll follow up in just a few moments with a few other questions. If you have any questions, get them in on the super text line, 615-737-9986. I feel like I buried the lead because I just looked at Jeremy's website. And are you JeremyThompson.com?
That's right.
See, my goodness gracious, if you're able to get, that's not your name is not particularly uncommon, and you got JeremyThompson.com.
That's
Congratulations.
Right. Yeah, we worked hard on that. And yeah,
I often say there's a P in Jeremy's name. I'm from Thompson, Georgia. Okay. You don't know this about me because you don't listen to my show. I'm from Thompson, Georgia, and I regularly say I'm from Thompson, THOMSON, no P in Thompson.
I got you.
So there's a P in this Thompson.
There is.
JeremyThompson.com. We'll talk more with Jeremy in just a moment on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I've had Jeremy Thompson on for like 30 minutes. I've yet to ask him about daylight saving time. My goodness, that's back up. That's in that. I mean, the House keeps passing it. The Senate won't do anything with it. It is the Matt Murphy Radio Show, 37 after the hour. Jeremy Thompson, our guest. He's running for U.S. Congress in the 9th Congressional District. We'll have everybody on from the 9th. We've had Brent Taylor on. We've got Jeremy on. If Todd wants to come on, he's welcome. If Ms. Bergman wants to come on, she's welcome as well, because we want to make you the most informed listening audience on planet Earth. So when you go to the polls and you vote for one of these candidates, you feel sure that you're voting for the right person to do the job of the 9th Congressional District. So we were talking about the foreign adversaries and the reset that's going on right now with Donald Trump in the Middle East. Are you concerned about the political fallout? Because I understand exactly what you're saying, and I agree with it. I do think that there needs to be a reset. I do think someone around the globe is going to be the superpower. And if it's not America, then another nation, probably China, will step in and try to fill that void. But I am concerned that it's going to impact the midterm elections in a way that will almost nullify the last 2 years of the Trump administration. Do you share those concerns?
Yeah, I share those concerns. I think the midterm elections are incredibly important to sustaining this pro-American agenda that we put in place. I think it's important for the next 24 months that we at least try to sustain that in some way. I mean, we will not be able to do it if we don't win the midterms. So when I talk about mobilizing or energizing the Republican Party, even those moderates out there that are leaning one way or the other, I would tell you, if you want our United States of America to survive and reset itself on the world stage as the greatest superpower on the planet, and that's important. That's important to the prosperity and freedom around the world. I don't care what you've been told lately. I don't care what you think you learned in school. I don't care what you think you learned in college. The United States of America sets the stage to be the greatest nation on earth. We are the only ones that spread freedom around the world. We are not tyrants. We do not go become a police state. We go try to make sure that people are held accountable to good and evil. And if you don't want the United States of America to be that country, what country is it that you want it to be? So Ronald Reagan said that we're one generation away from extinction. We need to take that very seriously right now. We need to understand what those words mean. And we also need to understand that there's morality in the United States Constitution and the men and women who developed it. I think John Adams said that the Constitution of the United States is wholly inadequate for an immoral or non-religious person. Give that some thought. Give that some thought when you think about who you're going to elect or vote for this election cycle. Get out of your comfort zone. Get out and study. Do some Google searches on those of us who are running, and make sure you make the right selection.
Yesterday, the president endorsed one of your opponents in the race. That can't be a good thing to read necessarily if you're on the campaign trail, and the biggest name in American politics is endorsing an opponent of yours.
Yeah, I watched the other people on the ticket kind of take a back seat. We're not taking a back seat in this election. Donald Trump does not know Jeremy Thompson, and he don't know Brent Taylor. He knows what he's heard about Brent Taylor, and Brent Taylor is a sitting state senator, and I understand the endorsement and the relationship, but I'm not here for coattail politics. I'm here to go make a difference in the United States government and our future way forward. That's what I'm here for.
How do you do that in a way that's unique, special, and different than, for example, Senator Taylor or any of the other candidates in the race?
Well, I'm not a politician, for one, and I really never endeavored to be a politician, but I don't like what I see going on in politics or the United States government. We take more and more power away from the people every day. The people out there working hard just to make ends meet deserve a representative that is going to go to D.C. and make positive changes on their behalf and move the needle to where they can get some relief and actually move forward. I can't drop $1 million in my campaign account. Do you think somebody going to D.C. that has that capability and has stocks and bonds and investments for what's seemingly endless money really, truly is connected to the people and understands what they're going through?
I was never that big of a fan of Senator Lindsey Graham. I'm not going to speak ill of a man who just lost his life. I appreciate his call to service, particularly his military service, sure. But then by extension, his political service. But at the same time, you mentioned the money involved in politics. I read a story this morning that he was worth $1.4 million at the time of his death, which is shockingly low.
It is. For
someone who has been in political service that long, because sadly, it is often the case that people go to Washington, D.C., and suddenly folks that were worth, $800,000, $900,000, $1 million are now worth $20 and $30 and $40 million. It's amazing how good an investment they become when they get to Washington, D.C.
Right, yeah. That's not what those seats are there for. Those seats are there to potentially become less rich and be of service to the people. That's what those positions are there for.
I mean, you seem like the type of guy, just talking with you, Jeremy, that you believe that the federal government should be serving less in terms of the balance between federal, state, and local. I mean, is that a fair assessment where you are?
I think the United States Constitution and the Supremacy Clause puts the power in the hands of the states and the state elected officials. There's a lot of power at the state level. The federal legislator's job is to keep federal government out of state and people level business. It's to be there as a stopgap for national emergencies, to make sure that we have savings accounts for things that may go wrong in this country, to make sure that we're helping people sustain life after retirement. I don't believe in socialized health care, but I believe in healthcare systems that create free market society and they're not overwhelmed or price gouged to the point where we can't afford them. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in the United States Congress, and I don't see a whole lot of people doing the work.
I mean, how do you spread that message of, hey, I'm going to Washington, D.C. to say no a lot? I mean, that's what I want out of my congressman.
Yeah.
But I think in 2026, it's probably a more difficult sell than it ever has been.
That's right. In 2026, nobody wants to be the bad guy. I think I said that earlier in the show. Sometimes you have to be the bad guy and say no and hold lines of accountability. Sometimes we have to concentrate more on what we need versus what we want. And I think that is something that's been busted and broken in the United States Congress for a very long time.
Clearly in your life right now, Veterans Affairs and helping our veterans that have given so much is a priority for you. Will you carry that to Washington, D.C.?
100%. Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, talk to me about the other priorities on your mind as you seek the vote of the people of the 9th Congress.
Yeah, I get asked often, what my top three would be. I said earlier that I think the greatest threat to national security is how we're failing to properly educate and support our K through 12 public education. We have to start producing vocationally, academically, and patriotic people again. If we're going to sustain as a nation and grow forward, that's got to be a top priority. I think number two is securing agriculture, because we're being infiltrated and overwhelmed by our enemies. China is coming in and buying up land. They're securing and trying to dominate markets. And we got to get out in front of that. And we got to put favorability back in our farmers' hands. That's going to be big in the 9th District. You have to understand farmers and how they're suffering. And we can't subsidize corporate farmers. So we have to if we're going to subsidize or draw a balance, we're going to have to find some equal measurability across the spectrum, all the way down to the small level farmer. But farming and agriculture and securing agriculture so we can feed our nation without dependence on foreign partners or adversaries is important to me. And then, probably last but certainly not least, is just the overall national security spectrum and apparatus to make sure it gets back accountable, that systems aren't weaponized against a political party or a political candidate, that we are objective and apolitical, or a law enforcement.
Did you see that report that is now out, Jack Smith, the authorization that he had through the Department of Justice to literally spy on sitting U.S. senators and read their text messages? It just came out, I think, this morning. It was out this morning, where under Joe Biden's Department of Justice, Jack Smith was authorized to access without their not. I mean, I think Senator Marsha Blackburn was one of them, and others. I mean, this is the type of government infiltration into the privacy of, I mean, if they're doing it with their United States senators, my goodness gracious, what are they doing with us?
It gets back to the accountability piece, and I'm going to say it over and over and over. If you want somebody to go start holding hard lines of accountability, send Jeremy Thompson to the United States Congress, because that's what I'm here for. Otherwise, I'll go back home and I'll watch everybody else try to do it from a distance. But this is where I'm at on that particular issue. There's an executive order, 12333, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I think I'm all right. Is an executive order that has been longstanding to prevent federal entities and agencies from spying on United States citizens. It's an absolute prohibition to do that at any level of law enforcement, the intelligence or military apparatus. So if we're not sending people to prison for violating that standard of accountability, then we're wrong. We're not holding people accountable anymore. I don't care about Republican, Democrat, or Independent. If you violate the standards of accountability in this country, you need to be held accountable and according to law.
What, and as we finish up here, only a couple of additional minutes, but what, if anything, can we do about the incredible influence that lobbyists have on our congresspeople? I understand that it's up to us to elect the right people that will not be beholden to these big money special interests. You know, I'm thinking of pharmaceutical companies. I mean, across the board. I mean, there's just so much. If you go to Washington D.C., I know you've been.
Absolutely.
You go down K Street, and some of the most beautiful palatial buildings that you'll find are the lobbyist buildings, because they spend a lot of money to influence a lot of policy.
Yeah. There's a lot of power there. So with money comes a lot of power. I will tell you that I'm very proud to say that I've never been a lobbyist. I've always been an advocate. I never got paid. I was a military or national security advisor in a volunteer capacity, just because I love our United States military and what we stand for around the world. But what I will say is lobbyists continue to wreck the political spectrum in D.C., and it's all tied to money and how much this agency or corporation is paying this series of politicians, or however you want to look at it. It's a pay-for-play system that we really got to get out in front of. I said it years ago. I said if we could get rid of lobbyism tomorrow morning, we could clean up a lot about what's wrong with D.C., but we would probably also destabilize our economic security at the same time. So there's got to be a balance drawn there.
Well, and it's a struggle for me, because I recognize that money is a form of speech. It can be a form of speech. And so I am a fierce defender of our freedom to express ourselves and our freedom of speech and our freedom to associate with like-minded people. And at the same time, I'm frustrated with how that is being used in ways that kind of goes against the fabric of the American people.
I cannot, as a candidate, come on your radio show or any other public forum and say that I want to go to D.C. and deregulate, and in the same conversation say I want to go regulate. What I can say is, with great freedom, which is what we're supposed to stand for here in this country, comes great responsibility. And we're abandoning our responsibility to ourselves and our government.
I'll say one final thought. You mentioned the education piece. Somewhere along the way, it was said to me years ago that if you went to a Catholic school, you would not expect anything other than a pro-Catholic education. And for a long, long time, public education was an American education, and so you received a pro-American education. Now, sadly, that's turned into a pro-government education, which are two very, very different things. So our American public school system became the government school system, and along the way, we lost that pro-American spirit, and it became a pro-government spirit, which I think you understand are two very, very different things.
Absolutely. It's more than half of what's wrong with our country right now, but we've got to get back grounded in what allowed us to survive for 250 years. I've said that because that's a benchmark in our nation's history right now. We were allowed to survive for 250 years as the greatest nation on earth providing opportunity in this country that you'll get nowhere else. I don't know what people's experiences are out there, but I've been around the world 3 times. I've been in austere environments. I've been in places that I didn't know if I'd survive. You do not want to go to those places if the United States is non-sustained or we collapse somewhere along the way. What I would implore people to do is get back grounded in the pro-American spirit, love your country, be willing to serve it and die for it. Do not live another day on this planet asking what the government can do for you.
That's well said. And, and I'll add this, and Jeremy's not paying me to say this. If you're down in Fayetteville, go to the Revolutionary Tavern. I mean, listening to Jeremy talk, it's got to be a great place to get something to eat.
We have a good time down there.
Well, and I love
we welcome everybody.
I love the theme. I love the spirit of it.
Yeah, we welcome everybody. That's important too. As a candidate, I don't alienate. I understand that if I get elected to this position, that I have to be of service to everybody that lives in this district. I'm running on a Republican ticket. I'm a Christian conservative combat veteran. I believe very much in conservative values, and my faith is strong. But I believe in being good to people, but also believe in holding people accountable.
Well, it's been a great pleasure to get to know you on air, and we look forward to the next conversation. Best of luck to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Jeremy Thompson with a P, .com is the website where you can find out more about Jeremy, and we'll be back in a moment, 52 after the hour on Super Talk.